that will initiate the auto sequence start for engine ignition. The cargo on board the Progress vehicle breaks down to 5,778 pounds of cargo, or about 2.8 tons. The breakdown of that is 2,094 pounds of propellant, 926 pounds of water, 110 pounds of nitrogen, and 2,648 pounds of dry goods and supplies. Once again, the arrival of the Progress to a docking at the aft port of the Zvezda service module is expected on Saturday morning at 12:56 a.m. Central Time, 1:56 a.m. Eastern Time. On board the International Space Station at this hour, the Expedition 71 crew and the Starliner astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, are asleep at this hour. They will receive news of the Progress launch once they are awakened a few hours from now to begin their Thursday activities on board the International Laboratory. The countdown, which has been proceeding flawlessly to this point, will have the final milestones as such at about the T-minus 7-minute mark in the countdown, or about 9 minutes from now. A launch key will be inserted into the launch bunker. It transitions the launch sequence into an automated mode. At the T-minus 5.5-minute mark, the launch controllers down in Baikonur will report that the range at Baikonur is clear and that the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. About a minute and a half later, onboard systems will be switched to what is called onboard control, and strip charts and other recorders will be activated to record all of the data of the Soyuz rocket's ascent to its preliminary orbit to deliver the Progress resupply vehicle. The fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines will be purged with nitrogen to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer from the base of the rocket. And then at the T-minus 2-minute 45-second mark into the countdown, the booster for the first stage will be pressurized for flight, optimizing the flow of fuel, helping to add structural support to the rocket. That ground propellant feed to the Soyuz booster will be terminated at about the T-minus 1-minute 30-second mark, about 30 seconds before the Soyuz is placed on internal power to begin the automated sequence start for engine ignition and liftoff. Again, an overcast morning on a Thursday morning at the launch site in the Central Asian desert, but everything is proceeding well. The rocket is fully fueled, ready to begin its journey to send the unpiloted Progress resupply ship to its preliminary orbit. The ascent milestones, as they occur, that you'll hear the calls as we proceed through the ascent timeline. At about the 1-minute 58-second mark after launch, we will see first stage separation. The side boosters will separate from the Soyuz booster. That will be followed about a minute later by the jettisoning of the launch shroud that envelops the Progress vehicle itself. Second stage shutdown of the Soyuz engine will occur at the 4-minute 37-second mark into the countdown, followed 10 seconds later by second stage separation. Just a few seconds later, the third stage skirt will be jettisoned. The third stage engine will be up and running at that point, firing for about 4 minutes and 9 seconds until it shuts down at the 8-minute 46-second mark into the ascent, 3 seconds before third stage separation. The Soyuz will have then deposited the Progress into its preliminary orbit, and within seconds the commands will be issued to deploy the Progress's solar arrays and navigational antennas to begin its 2-day journey toward the International Space Station. At the time of launch at 10:20 and 18 seconds p.m. Central Time, the International Space Station will be flying 260 miles just north of the border of Egypt and Sudan. And again, the Progress will be then on an automated, pre-programmed engine firing sequence to raise its altitude to eventually match that of the International Space Station, and then late Friday night into early Saturday morning to close in on the neighborhood of the International Space Station for a fly around of the station, and it will then match the forward docking port of the Progress to that of the aft port of the Zvezda service module, which was vacated on Monday by the departure of the older 87 Progress vehicle that was subsequently deorbited for a harmless entry where it burned up into the Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. The countdown continues to proceed on track, just 11.5 minutes until launch. You can see the venting of propellant from the Soyuz 2.1A booster. We're about 4 minutes or so away from the point at which the launch key will be inserted into the launch bunker to transition the final minutes of the countdown into an automated mode. Here in the final minutes of the countdown, you're looking now at a view from a balcony camera overlooking the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Korolyov outside of Moscow. At the point of spacecraft separation, about 8 minutes and 49 seconds after launch, those flight controllers will take over the rest of the flight of the Progress vehicle as it makes its 2-day journey to the International Space Station.
Готовность к пуску 5 минут принял, 70-й. Принята готовность к пуску 5 минут. Первый.
Just inside 10 minutes now until the launch of the Soyuz 2.1A booster and the Progress 89 resupply ship, once again poised to deliver 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the crew members on board the International Space Station. T-minus 9 minutes and counting. You can see a glimmer of sunshine glistening on the upper stage of the Soyuz booster. The Progress resupply ship is encapsulated in that upper stage. And again, the launch shroud jettisoning to expose the Progress itself during powered flight will occur just over 3 minutes into the flight path of the Progress, which will arc out to the northeast from the Baikonur Cosmodrome into an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. On Saturday morning, following its docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module, the Russian cosmonauts on board the station, led by Station Commander Oleg Kononenko, along with Nikolai Chub and Alexander Grabenkin, will conduct leak checks on both sides of the docking interface at the aft port of Zvezda before the hatches will be opened to allow them to begin the process of unloading the cargo from the Progress vehicle itself.
Минутная готовность. Первый. Минутную готовность принял, 30-й. Минутную готовность принял, 20-й. Минутную готовность МС принял 60-й.
Those conversations from the blockhouse in Baikonur from launch controllers as we pass the 7-minute mark into the countdown. The vehicle now being transitioned to the launch sequence for its automated mode from this point on. A little over a minute before a final check of the range down in Baikonur.
Доклады принял. Первый. Готовность 1 на Soyuz 70-й. Доклад принял. Первый. Первый. Есть готовность систем комплекса 30-й. Первый. Сброс шелового объекта проведен. Замечаний нет. Космический аппарат к запуску готов. 60-й. Доклады руководителя работ принял. Первый. Ключ на старт. Есть ключ на старт 30-й.
T-minus 6 minutes and counting. That launch key now has been inserted into the launch bunker, transitioning the launch sequence into automated mode. Everything continues to proceed smoothly towards an on-time launch at 10:20 and 18 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:20 and 18 seconds a.m. at the launch site in Baikonur on Thursday morning.
Продувка.
Now inside the 5-minute mark until launch.
Есть продувка 70-й. Доклады принял. Первый.
This is the point at which the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket's engines are being purged with nitrogen, fireproofing them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer from the base of the Soyuz 2.1A booster. Again, you are looking at Pad 6, launch site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan as we approach the 4-minute mark until liftoff. T-minus 3 minutes, 35 seconds until launch. Just under a minute before the first stage will be pressurized for flight.
Дренаж. Есть дренаж 30-й. Есть дренаж 70-й.
T-minus 2 minutes, 40 seconds until launch. The fuel and oxidizer tanks now being pressurized.
Есть дренаж 20-й. Доклады принял. Первый. Надув. Есть учение надува 30-й.
Coming up on the T-minus 2-minute mark.
Есть на духовке 30.
Mark, T-minus 2 minutes.
Есть сброс разъема всего системы измерения. Готовность должности выдана. Есть рост ГДН блока И-70. Доклады принял. Первый.
Coming up on the termination of the ground propellant feed to the rocket. The Soyuz 2.1A booster about to go on internal power. And we've passed the T-minus 1 minute mark. About 20 seconds or so away from the retraction of the first of the two umbilicals buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz booster.
Земля борт. Есть переход блока И на бортовое питание 30. Есть цифровой замок блока И-70.
There's the retraction of the first umbilical. The second umbilical will retract in about 10 seconds to initiate the engine sequence start.
Пуск. Пуск. Зажигание. Предварительное.
We have engine sequence start.
Промежуточное.
Engines revving up to full throttle and liftoff. Liftoff of the 89th Progress resupply ship to the International Space Station. The vehicle has cleared the tower. Thrust on the first stage engines. The Soyuz booster arcing out to the northeast from the launch site in the Central Asian desert.
Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме. 40. Стабилизация изделия устойчивая.
Good reports from the blockhouse in Baikonur. Good stability on the vehicle. Good first stage engine performance.
Двигатели в норме. Норме.
Pitch, roll, and yaw, all nominal.
70. Полет нормальный.
1 minute, 10 seconds into the flight, everything reported nominal so far.
Параметры конструкции управления ракеты-носителя в норме. 90.
The blockhouse in Baikonur reporting good structural parameters for the vehicle, good first stage engine performance. Standing by for first stage separation. And we have confirmation of first stage separation. Second stage engine up and running. Just to recap, an on-time liftoff for the Soyuz 2.1A booster. It occurred at 10:20 and 18 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:20 and 18 seconds a.m. in Baikonur on Thursday morning. The Soyuz booster flying straight and narrow on its second stage performance. Good stability on the vehicle. Good engine performance from the second stage. And we have the launch shroud jettison. Just over 3 minutes into the flight, about 5 minutes and 40 seconds of powered flight remaining. "220 seconds into the flight, continuing to receive good reports from the blockhouse in Baikonur. The vehicle is stable. The Soyuz booster is firing its second stage engine in great shape. This view now from a camera on the upper stage of the Soyuz booster looking back down the stack. Good pitch, yaw, and roll stability on the vehicle. About 4.5 minutes into the flight. Everything looking good. Second stage shutdown reported. The third stage skirt has been jettisoned. Third stage engine up and running. The vehicle is stable. Good reports continuing to come in. About 3 minutes of powered flight remaining for the Soyuz booster to deliver the Progress resupply vehicle into its preliminary orbit. Good third stage engine performance reported. And good control on the vehicle coming in from the blockhouse in Baikonur. Good pitch, roll, and yaw program. Good stability on the vehicle. About 2 minutes and change remaining in powered flight. Once again, third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation scheduled at about the 8-minute, 49-second mark. That will be followed in short order by the command to deploy the solar arrays and navigational antennas on Progress. "7 minutes into the flight, about 1 minute, 49 seconds of powered flight remaining. The vehicle continues to climb uphill, very stable. Good pitch, roll, and yaw program. Good stability. All the parameters are in great shape. We're coming up on the 8-minute mark into the flight. Less than a minute of powered flight remaining. About 30 seconds of powered flight remaining. Everything continues to perform in a nominal fashion. Third stage engine tailing off as planned. Good pitch roll in yaw program, good stability as we stand by for third stage separation. And we have third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation. And the command has now been issued for solar array deploy that you see occurring. And we have confirmation of solar array deploy and navigational antenna deploy as planned. The Progress now in its preliminary orbit, beginning its 2-day journey to reach the International Space Station early Saturday morning. And we see our first view from the external television camera on the Progress vehicle that will come into play in earnest on Saturday morning, showing the closure rate of the Progress to the International Space Station, its distance from the station, and its rate of closure as it makes its way toward an automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. This is Mission Control Houston as you look at a view from a balcony camera overlooking the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow, where flight controllers there have now taken over control of the flight of the unpiloted Progress resupply vehicle to the International Space Station. Launch occurred on time at 10:20 and 18 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:20 and 18 seconds a.m. Baikonur time on Thursday morning. All of the ascent events unfolded in perfect fashion. About 8 minutes and 49 seconds after launch, the Progress separated from the third stage of the Soyuz 2.1A booster, deployed its solar arrays and navigational antennas, and is now well on its way for an automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module on Saturday morning. Our coverage will begin on Saturday at 1 a.m. Eastern Time for a docking scheduled at 1:56 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday morning. The Progress poised to deliver 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the Expedition 71 crew aboard the International Space Station. But for now, that'll wrap up our coverage for this evening. A perfect launch of the Progress, now well on its way to the International Space Station, and an arrival in the wee hours Saturday morning. Join us again on Saturday for our coverage of Progress Rendezvous and docking. Until then, we're signing off for now. This is Mission Control Houston.